thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. Download the app today.
This is Up for a Chat with your hosts, Cyndi O'Meara and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat, talking about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Cyndi O'Meara.
And I'm Kim Morrison. We are in for a treat this month. The beautiful, amazing, very, very clever Martin Stone is joining us. He's a naturopath, but where a lot of his work is based now is in the education side of things. And the minute I saw a quote that he's the best anatomy teacher that anyone's ever had, I could have done with you many, many years ago, gorgeous Martin. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, wow, what an introduction. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's such a treat to have you. And we are very excited because your background is naturopathy and education. Would you mind jumping in and just telling us how on earth did Martin Stone go down that pathway? What took you on that trajectory?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. Thanks, Kim. So look, I grew up in the UK and I've got to say that I was a very snotty-nosed kid, okay? So if there was ever a cold going around, I would catch it. I would have it 10 times worse than anybody else. I'd have it 10 times longer than anybody else. And then as soon as I recovered, I would pick up the next thing that was going around. So I was always sick as a kid. And, you know, obviously I think a lot of your listeners can relate to this. You know, we are attracted to this sphere because of our own health issues. That's how a lot of people get into health. Now, the funny thing is that even as a child, I had this kind of instinctual knowing, I'll call it that there wasn't quite something quite right about modern medicine, that, you know, somehow there had to be a better way. And I guess to give you an example, you know, always sick as a child, you know, my parents would take me to see the doctor, you know, I'd have a stinking cold or whatever it was, you know, and guess what the doctor would do back then? Guess what they'd give you?
Antibiotics. You
got it, Cyndi. You got it. So, yeah, of course, the doctor would prescribe antibiotics, which I'm sure your listeners know. You know, antibiotics target bacteria. They're going to do nothing for a cold, which is caused by a virus. And, of course, your antibiotics are going to wipe out your microbiome and probably make you sicker and less resilient than you were before. Now, obviously, at the age of 8 years old, I couldn't have articulated that. But on some level, I kind of knew there's got to be a better way. Now, funnily enough, when I got to the age of about 19 or 20, I started becoming more interested in how nutrition can affect our health. You know, they don't teach you this stuff in school, or they didn't when I was a kid. And I experimented with a vegan diet. And I've got to tell you, pretty much instantly, when I removed dairy from my diet, all that snot and all that mucus, that all went away, and my immune system was stronger and I started living healthier. So I was like, okay, well, that's really how I kind of got interested in the connection between nutrition and health. And that's what got me started on this journey.
I love a journey like that. You know, I find that a lot of people discover their own health before they want to start helping other people. I know for my husband, he was a rugby player in the police force, had a bad back, ended up at a chiropractor's, and then ended up doing chiropractic. He decided to get out of the police force and do chiropractic. And I hear this over and over and over again, that it's almost like I've been helped, I can help other people. It's like a service to humanity. And I think that's one of the things that you do, is that you are a service to humanity, in that you have an incredible education facility called Switch On Health. Could you explain, how did you go from naturopathy to deciding to educate naturopaths?
Yeah, look, great question. So I arrived in Australia in the mid-90s, and at that time I didn't have any skills or any qualifications. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And somebody said to me, oh, Martin, you know, you're interested in health, you know, maybe you should become a naturopath. And I probably just gave them this blank look because I didn't even know what a naturopath was. I don't think such a thing existed in the UK. But anyway, to cut a long story short, I studied naturopathy and graduated in 2001. And I was in practice, but I knew what I really wanted to do was teach. I can't explain why. It just felt like that was in my bones. I just really wanted to do it. And I got a break and started teaching at a college in 2005. From there, I got another lucky break, I guess, and got involved with their distance learning department, which took off not that long after I joined. And yeah, one thing basically led to another. I got more and more involved in the education side. And yeah, fast forward another 10 or 15 years, ended up opening my own college. Now, how that came to be, you know, what created that gap in the market, I suppose, for Switch On Health to arrive on the scene. That is a big story. I'd love to take you through it if you're up for it. Okay, getting nods here.
We are up for a chat. We are so
Excellent.
up for
We are
it.
so up for a chat.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim, Cyndi. Yeah, look, basically, we do get asked, you know, people come to us and they're interested in studying nutrition or naturopathy or herbal medicine. And what they find is that when they start looking at where can I study, there's very, very few options. And we get a lot of people who say, oh, look, I really wanted to do this 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever, but I had kids and, you know, life got in the way and now I'm coming back to it. And how come there are hardly any colleges? There's like very few options to study. And yeah, look, this is what I'd really like to talk to you about today because there was a study in 2009 and they were looking at colleges that offered naturopathy and or Western herbal medicine. And at the time that this study was conducted, they identified 43 colleges where you could go to study. Now, by the time we got to 2016, that number had gone from 43 to 3. So at that point, the future is not looking too bright. I mean, that's not a very good trajectory for our profession, is it? And by the time we got to 2018, if you wanted to do naturopathy, that number was down to 2. If you wanted to do Western herbal medicine, we were down to 1. And if you wanted to do homeopathy, 0. There were no colleges in Australia where you could study homeopathy. So we went from 2009, lots of options to study, booming industry, to just being literally decimated within the space of less than 10 years.
What do you think caused that? What I'm seeing at the moment is the opening up, especially with AI, is the opening up of courses everywhere. And I know AI's only been going on, well, they reckon it's been going for a long time, but it's kind of people are just kind of figuring it out. What do you like? I would have thought natural medicine, naturopathy, and Western and herbal medicine would have been something that was growing at a fast rate. Do you think it's the education system or the accreditation system or the certification system that's stopping a lot of people from doing it? Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one.
Right. Well,
So much is going on in my head.
yeah, look, I could talk a lot about this. There's a lot of history behind this that explains exactly why this has happened. I guess just to touch on what you said about all of these other courses popping up in AI and so on, you know, it is confusing for people when they look at studying. You know, we've got places like Udemy where they're saying, oh, you know, become a master naturopath or whatever, and it's only going to cost you $20. Actually, this week we've got a special. It's only going to cost you $8, you know, and hopefully your listeners realize that, you know, you're not actually qualified when you've done a course like that. And then at the other end of the scale, you know, you could go and do a bachelor degree and it's going to cost you like maybe $80,000 or $90,000 to get qualified. So there's a bit of confusion out there. You know, how do we know what is appropriate as a course? But if you're up for it, up for a chat, okay, I'll take you through exactly what happened over the last, let's say, 30 years and how we got to this position and of course, you know, how Switch On Health came to exist. So
I'm very interested.
all right, excellent. Thanks, Cyndi. So I hope you're sitting comfortably. If you're listening, I hope you're either sitting comfortably or got your running shoes on because we're going to go on a massive journey here. So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Let's go back in time. We won't go to a land far, far away. We'll go back in time. We'll go back to 1995. Okay, so if we go back to Australia, 1995, there was very little government regulation of education and these kind of courses in Australia, and the people were happy. People were studying natural therapies. It was, I got to tell you, that's when I started studying, and it was a great time to be studying natural therapies. The colleges were just thriving. We really had this thriving, growing industry in natural medicine. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that the government does not set any minimum legal educational requirement to become a naturopath or a nutritionist. So obviously, some people find this a little bit concerning. In theory, even your local butcher could hang up a sign and call himself the naturopath and start practicing. Now, in reality, of course, that doesn't happen. And there's a lot of reasons why it doesn't happen. But what it really comes down to is that our industry is very well self-regulated. So we do a very good job of ensuring that only people that are appropriately trained and qualified actually get access to the kind of tools that they need to become a practitioner. So we're very well self-regulated, and even though we're not regulated so much by the government, they don't say this is what you need to be a naturopath. That's not really an issue for us. So back 30 odd years ago, self-regulated industry, we had a lot of different colleges offering diplomas or advanced diplomas and so on, naturopathy, nutrition, you name it. The government did not specify what these qualifications should look like. And this for them was a potential problem. The problem that the government saw was that, well, a diploma from one college might have the same name as a diploma from a different college, but they might look like two completely different courses. How do you know as a student, or how do you know as an employer, what somebody has covered in their course? So this was the potential problem. And it wasn't just in natural therapies. This was across a whole range of different trades and vocations. So the government said, okay, along comes the government, like doopy-doo, hello, I'm a government man. And the government man says, all right, what we got to do is we've got to fix this potential problem. And the way we're going to do that is by standardizing education across Australia. So nationally, we've got one consistent standard, and it doesn't matter which college you go to, your qualification is going to look exactly the same regardless of where you studied. And this is going to be good for you as a student because you'll be able to, make that accurate comparison and so on. So this all sounds great in theory, doesn't it? Think, okay, this sounds like a good idea so far, all right? So what we've got to ask ourselves is, when the government gets involved, do they normally do a great job? Or I'm getting shaking heads here from Cyndi and Kim. Hands up if you think the government might have done this really well, or perhaps things didn't quite go to plan and we didn't quite get as good an outcome as we thought we wanted to. So the government basically bundled up all of these different qualifications and all these different industries into what are called training packages. And the first version of the health training package was released in 2002. And when you looked at the qualification inside a training package for something like naturopathy or nutrition, it looked nothing like what the colleges and what industry currently said this is what your qualification should look like. So previously, if you were thinking of studying and you looked at different colleges, you'd be looking for that industry accreditation. So if your course was accredited by ATMS and ANTA and NHAA, for example, you would know that, okay, these external industry bodies, they've assessed these courses, they've given their seal of approval, I'll be able to practice and be recognised once I graduate. Now, the government courses, these training package courses, they didn't look anything like what our accrediting bodies, such as ATMS, said the course should look like. So this poses a little bit of a problem for the colleges because legally they're supposed to meet these training package rules, and these courses do not look anything like what their accrediting associations say the course should look like. It also it gets a little bit worse, of course. So previously, when you looked at what a college delivered, it was quite easy to see what the course was made up of. Okay, in this subject, we're going to learn about vitamins. In this subject, we're going to learn about minerals. In this subject, we're going to learn about antioxidants and probiotics and so on. Now, when you look inside the training package qualifications, the qualifications are made up of what are called units of competency, which basically describe what tasks you should be able to perform as a practitioner. And there's nothing in there that says, this is where you do vitamins, this is where you do minerals, this is where you do antioxidants. So somehow the colleges have to take their existing curriculum and map it against these units of competency. And they have to get pretty creative when they do this because the units of competency don't look anything like what you'd think would be logical when you're studying. The units of competency have got these strange names like work within a nutritional medicine framework, manage work within a nutritional medicine framework, analyze health information, reflect on and improve own professional practice. I don't know how you teach that in the classroom, but there you go. So the college is like, okay, well, somehow we've got to map the two against each other. And what I'm getting at here is that because the colleges just had to find ways of reconciling the two, colleges did this in different ways. So the result was that whereas before you could easily tell what somebody had studied, they'd done vitamins, they'd done minerals, now you were looking at, okay, well, which units of competency have they done? And because colleges mapped in different ways, the qualifications that colleges were offering now looked more dissimilar to each other than they did before the government came along and attempted to make them look the same. So the government set out to do one thing and achieved the complete opposite. Now, I know I'm going into a lot of detail here, so if you're still with me, please bear with me because
it's
the
frustrating. To me, it's frustrating, because I see that in what I do is that, yeah, we can talk about that later, but it is frustrating. That's how I see it, is that when the government and the peak bodies become involved, then you've got to teach what they want you to teach rather than teach what is the essence of naturopathy or the essence of nutrition or the essence of aromatherapy or you have to, frustration is what I would call it right now, but please keep going. Frustrate us more.
Thanks, Cyndi. We are going to get a bit more frustrated or enlightened, I'll say. So, look, nothing really happened overnight with the colleges. So there weren't any big changes, there wasn't a big uproar or anything like that. Things kind of went how they'd always been. The college was like, okay, we're not quite sure what we're doing with this, but we'll figure it out at some point. So things kind of went how they were for about 6 years or so. And what happened after a few years, around about 2007, 2008, is that we had a new great idea from the government. This is like great idea number 2. Okay. So this new idea from the government came in the form of what is called vet fee help. So vet, nothing to do with animals in this context. VET stands for vocational education and training. So vet fee help is essentially a loan from the government to pay for you to study so that you can get skilled in something and go out there and be awesome, which sounds great. Okay, you want to be a naturopath, you don't have the money, the government's going to pay for you to do the course. Like, how awesome would that be? We need more naturopaths and nutritionists in this world, So on the face of it, again, great idea from the government. Was it well implemented? Nope, unfortunately not. So the way vet fee help works, I said it's a loan for you to study. The government's going to pay for you to study. Now, the government does not give that money to you and you then give it to the college to pay for your course. The government gives that money to the college. So some of you listening might be able to see where this is going already.
Mm.
Okay, because supposing you run a college, the more people that you've got enrolled, the more money you're going to collect from the government. You can probably see where this is going now. Okay. So, what the college owners would do is they would recruit sales agents to go out there and sign up as many people as they could to their courses because the more people they get signed up, the more money they collect from the government. And this is where we enter what really I think is the ugliest chapter of education in recent Australian history. Um, because to give you some examples, we'd have these sales agents who are getting paid on commission. The more people they sign up, the more money they get. Okay, so sales agents would start hanging around outside Centrelink offices. And you can kind of imagine the conversation, because if somebody's studying a nationally recognized course, then they can get out of their obligations to be looking for work with Centrelink.
Um,
So the conversation might have gone something like, hey, mate, how would you like to not have to turn up to Centrelink for the next 2 years and justify what you've done to find a job? All you have to do is sign here and I'll give you a free iPad. And that's the sort of thing that we started to see happen. So these colleges started to get massive uptakes in numbers of people that were supposedly enrolled. Some of them would have genuinely wanted to study, others weren't at all interested in studying. They were just after their free laptop or whatever the incentive was. We had people that were enrolled who had physical and or mental health conditions that made them entirely unsuitable for the course in which they were enrolled. They never would have completed the training, but of course they pick up that student debt to the government. We heard stories of sales agents going out into remote Indigenous communities and signing up 4 people under the same household. You can only imagine, I'm sure these people didn't have a clue what bit of paper they were signing, or what was offered to them in exchange for that signature.
can
So,
I just stop you there?
yeah,
So they didn't have to pay it back. The government just gave the money to them to be educated or to the
the college.
institutions for them to be, and they never, it wasn't a payback deal. It was like free education. Because I know when I went to uni, and I went to uni in the 80s, it was free. I
Yeah,
didn't have to
those
pay the
days are
government
gone.
back anything. It was free right up until 89. And
Yeah.
then, halfway through 89 is when they started to say, oh, hang on, you're going to have to pay this back with a HEX fee. So you're are you saying to me that the government was paying accredited with VET, but there was no, like the Australian Aboriginal people, the people on Centrelink, the people that might have been, unable mentally and physically to do this, did not have to pay this debt back?
They did have to pay it back, but
Oh,
only if they started earning a certain amount of money.
right.
So some of these people on Centrelink might have thought, there's no way I'm ever going to earn that much.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
So they still incur this debt to the government,
Yeah.
but they don't necessarily get the training and the qualification that they've paid for. And
Yeah.
because it's deferred, because they don't need to worry about it until they start earning more money in the future,
Mm.
that debt basically just sits there. So the sales agent gets the commission, the college collects
Stays
money from the
open.
government.
Yeah.
Yep. The student, if they even are a student, they incur a debt to the government that has to be repaid at some point. And who pays for all of this?
We do the public, the tax.
You got it, Cyndi. You got
Right.
it. We pay for it.
It's
You,
a rule.
myself, anybody that paid taxes in the last decade, this is where our money went. So all of that public money went straight into the pockets of private colleges, most of it. Some went to TAFEs who were doing the right thing. Some
Mm.
went to private colleges, and some of the private colleges were doing the right thing, but the industry did attract, I guess, a number of unscrupulous operators. And there are unfortunately tens of thousands of students that have been affected by this. There's multiple stories of colleges basically closing overnight. Students would turn up the next day, the doors would be shut, there'd be nobody there. Um, the college would disappear, and they would have picked up a debt for thousands of dollars and have nothing to show for it. It's heartbreaking. It actually kind of hurts for me to tell this story.
I'm keen to know. I enrolled in naturopathy through the Southern School of Natural Therapies in the
Yep.
80s, um, and then swapped to aromatherapy and homeobotanical therapy and fitness training. And it was such a clean, beautiful, it seemed, such a clean, beautiful industry. All of those Eastern, I guess, philosophies or any of those modalities that were seen as more natural. And there seemed to be a lot of respect for both orthodox and, I guess, holistic integrative natural therapies. So, is this where it went wrong, in your opinion, Martin? Because every time I hear money gets involved, every time there's some sort of handout or some sort of payoff or payback, it seems to not only disrupt the government per se, but it's the actual industry that gets really hurt the most. What what happened? Is it because of this
Yeah.
that it all fell apart?
Yeah, look, I've got this expression, Kim, where the government money goes, the crooks follow. And I think that's what happened in this case. I'm with you. When I was studying a little bit later than you, but yeah, in the late 90s, these colleges like SSNT and ACNT, they were small family owned businesses and often run by naturopaths. You know, it was a fantastic time to be studying. Now, when Vet VHOP came along, I think that what happened was that we had business people, see an opportunity. They acquired these sorts of colleges. So the colleges that you and I studied at, they're under completely different ownership structures now. And yeah, I think that's basically what
This
happened.
is this is why people hate capitalism or look at business people as crooks or
Mm.
thieves or they're just in it for themselves. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are, but surely when they came up with that idea, please tell me there was a noble intent to start with.
Uh, yeah, look, I think
That was a very high
maybe
pitched, oh,
maybe best intentions on behalf of the government, but I think they should have seen this coming. I think that history repeats itself. I think if we go back in history, we'll see similar outcomes. Like I remember being told this story about how in the Soviet Union or whatever they were called back then, um, factories were basically rewarded on their output. So they'd start making things that were just ridiculously heavy because the heavier they were, the more they were producing and the more they would get paid, even though they were making these heavy and cumbersome objects that were actually not very useful. So, yeah, what gets sort of recognized gets rewarded in a way. Yeah, I think
but
that
it's a
as
little bit
soon as the
like
government turns on that tap and says, okay, here's a way of making money, people will find a way to maximize how much money they can get. Yeah.
I
And
interviewed a political scientist once, and she said the minute corporate money came into backing political campaigns and political or government situations, we lost our democracy and it became more aristocracy. And it meant the rich got richer and the poor got poorer kind of thing. And we created this separation of what it was to all live a happy, healthy life.
yeah.
It sounds like it's the same. It's the minute you get someone with an agenda or someone like those agents, they saw a way to make commission. I don't want to knock them because in a way it was almost fed to them and handed to them on a plate and they've got kids and families and what a
Yeah.
great way for them to make money and potentially looking at it as a natural therapies college and these people on Centrelink, they potentially felt like they were a little bit godlike.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think that you're right when you say that at some point things got corrupted, unfortunately. Yeah.
So talk to us about or unless you haven't finished, but I'd love you to then go into Like when you said there's 43, I think there was colleges back in
43 to
2000.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, in 1990 in the 90s.
Yeah,
2016.
Yeah, to or 2009, wasn't it? To
it
now to
was.
2016. Like
2016.
do schools like the Southern School of Natural Therapy still exist, Endeavour College? Like who are all the people? Who do we trust now?
All right. Well, look, first of all, I'll say, the colleges that are around today, yeah, look, great places to study. There are not many colleges left. We're down to, you could count them on one hand. And all of them are great places to study. We all offer similar kinds of courses. But yeah, look, how did we get from having, dozens of colleges to single digits? That's the next part of our story.
Well,
Oh,
I'd like to assume.
yes.
So the vet fee help disappeared. Am I assuming right?
Long story short, yeah, you're getting this, and you're a sharp one. You see what's coming, okay? So, we're vet fee help tap has been turned on. The colleges are raking it in, and we are talking a lot of money. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? A lot of money, all right? And, the wheels of government turn slowly, but they do turn. And at some point, the government kind of starts joining the dots. The penny slowly starts to drop, and they're like, well, hang on, we seem to be spending a lot of money on education, and maybe we should have a look at what kind of results we're getting. Are we having thousands of people graduate and skilled, and the economy is booming because we've now got all of these new qualified people out there in the workforce? What's going on? So they start having a look, and they're like, well, hang on, how come we've spent billions on this, and we've got a graduation rate of 2% or whatever it was. So the government starts to wise up, and they're like, all right, we'd better do something about this. We'd better clean up the industry. And that's basically what happened. So we had this big government clamp down on the entire vocational education training industry. And remember before, this is why I talked about this in detail earlier. Remember before I said that the qualifications that the government designed looked nothing like what industry said the qualification should look like. Now, legally, of course, you got to do what the government says your qualification should look like. So when they say, okay, we got to clamp down, we've got to clean up the industry, the auditors are coming in, they're auditing colleges, and they're going through these training package qualifications that are written in this gobbledygook language that nobody understands and that aren't matched to what industry says your graduate outcomes should be. But if you don't meet what the government says, well, your college could be shut down, your staff could lose their jobs, you could be ordered to pay money back to the government. So if you were a college during that last decade, what do we call that decade? The teens? The 20 teens? Yeah. So if you were running a college in that time, it became an increasingly hostile environment in which to operate. And yeah, college owners at that time, whether they were doing the right thing or not, they started sweating and getting out. And that's one reason why so many colleges closed down. There's a couple of other reasons, but that's definitely one reason why. It just became increasingly unpalatable to run a college in that environment. The second reason is that, when these business people came along and saw this opportunity, you know, they invested, they acquired and bought up other colleges like SSNT, for example, Kim. And so we ended up with these behemoth colleges that, I kind of think of them like a Death Star. That's another little Star Wars analogy for you there. Second one for today. Like a Death Star that just sucks up these smaller family-owned colleges. And if you weren't acquired by them, you were then competing against these behemoths. So you didn't really stand a chance in the market. So that's another reason why some colleges would have closed down. So this is kind of part one of the story, the whole vet fee help scandal, But meanwhile, in a parallel universe, there's another story going on. This is like the B plot, okay? So there's something else going on in the background, all right? So here we go, second part of the story. So within our profession, there are a number of stakeholders who believe that an advanced diploma level qualification is not appropriate for what we do, and that everybody should have to go out and get a bachelor degree if they want to be a nutritionist or a naturopath or a herbalist, for example. Now, um, these people are not here to defend themselves. I can't really speak for them, but I can say that there are no arguments they've put forward that I think really hold any basis, and obviously I disagree with them. I don't think that a minimum standard of bachelor is the best way for us to go forward in our profession. But nevertheless, these people have been lobbying for this for a long time, and they were successful to a certain point. So in 2014, the decision was made to remove the advanced diploma programs from the national training package. So come the end of 2015, nobody could enroll into these advanced diplomas, which meant that in 2016, no options left to study other than a bachelor program. And there are not many bachelor programs of nutrition or naturopathy in Australia. And why is that? Well, it's very expensive to become a bachelor provider. And because it's expensive to deliver those qualifications, the course fees for a bachelor naturally just have to be a lot higher than they are for, a non-bachelor qualification. And if the course fees are a lot higher, then that means when you study a bachelor and you graduate, well, obviously you're going to want to charge more for your services to recoup the costs of your study. So all of a sudden, naturopathy has become something that becomes less affordable to the general public. And this is one reason why I think this is not a good path to go down, because I'd like to see natural health available to everyone. I'd like to see everybody have access to a natural health practitioner, and I'd like to see everybody have the opportunity to study natural therapies without having to incur an $80,000 debt to the government to do a 4-year bachelor degree, without having to move interstate and relocate to a capital city to be able to do your course. This is just not an option for a lot of people who want to study. Our typical client that's studying with us, typically female aged between 30s and 50s, has children, doesn't necessarily live in a capital city. For these people who want to become qualified, going to uni is not an option, Why do we have so few bachelor programs? Well, I've already said that cost is one reason why, but there are other reasons, okay? We've got lobby groups like the Friends of Science in Medicine, and they think that what we do is quackery and snake oil stuff. So they lobby hard politically to make sure that no public universities offer a bachelor degree in naturopathy, because they think it would tarnish the reputation of this Sandstone University and their medical school, etc. Okay, so we're not going to have public universities, by and large, offering any kind of degree in anything related to complementary medicine. We've already seen a reduction in the public universities that offer acupuncture and in chiropractic. So we know which direction this is going in. It's not going in a positive growth direction. The number is going down, okay? So without public universities offering bachelor degrees, we're relying on the private sector. Now, we've got 2 private providers of bachelor degrees in our industry. They're both under overseas ownership. And honestly, I've got no ill feelings, no disrespect to the owners. But we do know that, when we have a private equity firm or, a multinational that's listed on the NASDAQ, when they own our education, they're going to be making business decisions about the viability of their courses. And if they don't make the numbers, they're not going to run the courses. So by placing our future, in the hands of a very small number of private overseas businesses, I think that's putting us in a very, very risky position for the future of our education.
So, I've got so many questions for you.
Sorry, I know this is, I've
I'm going
just
to make a
downloaded a lot.
statement. I'm going to make a statement first. So
Yep.
with chiropractic, because my daughter's at a private college, because Melbourne's closed down,
Yep.
and you know, and the other thing that I'm finding with a bachelor's is that you have to be, I don't know if naturopathy has the peak body, but nutrition has the peak body. So if you are not teaching what the peak body believes you should be teaching, whether you do a Cert 4 in nutrition or whether you do a bachelor's, then you can't get accreditation. But you've got to be teaching what they believe is the right thing, which is the dietary guidelines. So I know from that perspective in nutrition, do you like, so I guess my question is there a peak body in naturopathy that is dictating what you should be learning that's not necessarily what naturopathy is really all about? Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so peak bodies. This is another funny situation that confuses a lot of people. So I said before that the industry was very well self-regulated. Now, luckily, I get down on my knees and give thanks every day for this. You know, we don't have a government body telling us what we should be doing. Yeah, I think we're much better off without government regulation or intervention. So we're a very self-regulated industry, and we've got a number of peak bodies, as you call them, a number of different accrediting associations, and they all try to tell you that they're the best. You know, they all try to be the one. You know, you should join us. We represent. We do a better job than the other guys do. They all say that, which is quite funny. You know, there's been multiple attempts over the decades for us to be more united as a profession, and all these attempts have failed. By and large, I would say that the associations are generally in agreement with each other, and what they say, you know, a naturopathy or nutrition qualification should look like. Typically, I agree with them. I think that they actually do a good job. You know, they don't set unnecessary hurdles. You know, the training package that came in from the government, completely different story. You know, total nonsense, in my opinion. But our industry bodies, those peak bodies, actually, I think their requirements are pretty good and do make sense.
So I know a couple of the providers for naturopathy. So Switch On Health, where do you stand in the education realm? If we know that there's only a couple, well, there's only two left, isn't there? So
Yeah.
how do you like? Yeah, where do you stand in the education realm
Where
of
did
naturopathy and homeopathy? You do homeopathy as well, don't you? You
we
teach.
do?
And
Yes.
I just have to say that the Nutrition Academy is now with Switch On Health as far as we do prior learning.
Yep.
And so if they want to go and do homeopathy after they've done my course, they can come in with prior learning. So it's very exciting that we found each other in this space that we can help each other out. Like some people might not want to do the naturopathy or whatever it is that we support each other in our education.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just to expand on that, Cyndi, before I get into what I was going to actually answer your question. So yeah, anybody who studies with the Nutrition Academy, you know, we do recognize previous studies from anywhere. So yeah, studies with the Nutrition Academy, you can get a financial discount if you then want to come on and study something with Switch On Health. So we definitely do recognize whatever somebody else has done. And yeah, look, Nutrition Academy course is absolutely fantastic. You know, I think that people who study with you, you know, they get a completely different perspective, really. And, you know, it's a very holistic, broad approach, you know, and I love the approach you guys take. And yeah, people would definitely get something out of your courses that they wouldn't necessarily find in ours. So yeah. So answering your question, you know, where does Switch On Health fit into this picture? So where did we get up to? We got up to the year 2016, I think. So very few options left to study, basically a bachelor or nothing. And at that time, I was working for a college. We were delivering these advanced diploma programs. We couldn't enroll anybody new into the programs, and we had a cutoff date of 2018. Basically, if you did not finish your program by then, it was illegal for us to keep going. So you had to be done. It's a very stressful time for anybody studying, if they had kids or got sick or whatever, no deferrals, no extensions, like if you're not done by 2018, finito, you get nothing basically. So yeah, my heart really goes out to anybody that was studying in that difficult time. Difficult for us as a college as well, no new enrollments. Got to do everything we can for the people we've got. And of course, at that time I was running a faculty in a college, and we knew the writing was on the wall. After 2018, we don't have a job basically. Now it was in 2018 that we had a conversation with ATMS, one of our peak bodies, and they said to us, look, we don't care what kind of a qualification it is. It doesn't have to be a bachelor program. All we care about is that it meets our standards. And this was really the golden opportunity for us, because we took a blank piece of paper and we said, okay, all of our experience, everything we've learned, education, natural therapies, what would the perfect college look like? What would it look like if we were to design the perfect course? How would that look? And that's basically what we did with Switch On Health. So we designed a curriculum and a delivery from scratch, and we took it to ATMS. We met their standards. They accredited our course, and then we opened in 2019.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So you have graduates already then, because we're in 2025 now. So you've got graduates that have come out of your system. Yeah. And you're not like, I've seen your prices, and they're nothing like about like 80, 90,000. They're nowhere near that. And I think that it makes it affordable, because that's the thing is that, if you get a Bachelor of Science majoring in nutrition, you are at that 80,000. If they are doing the Bachelor of Science with naturopathy, that is around the 80 grand plus, I think.
Yeah.
I just find, I find the whole education system frustrating, because in Australia, not necessarily around the world, but in Australia, there's this whole thing about, oh, you have to go to university because that's where you're going to get the best education. But what I see at a university now is that you get brainwashed into a system, whether that be medicine. And I'm not being mean to medicine. I have so many friends that are medical doctors, emergency care or integrative or whatever it is, but they're in a system of diagnosis and management of disease, not prevention, but of disease, with operations, medicine, and chemotherapy, maybe, or radiation, whatever those things are that they're doing. That's the system they're in. And if they go and do a Bachelor of Science majoring in nutrition and going on to dietetics, which is what I did, I'm going into a system that says you have to follow the dietary guidelines. All hospitals have to eat Jello and margarine. I don't know. I'm frustrated by the education system. And so, and the fact that everybody in Australia thinks, oh, you must be accredited. So I'm going to go somewhere that happened a couple of days ago, on an education facility that educates on fitness and nutrition, that was on a current affair and was being hauled across the coals, and they're accredited. So ASQA, which is the regulatory body for education. So I went through ASQA and did it really well through ASQA, but then at the last minute, which Martin, I think I've told you this story, and Kimmy knows it, at the last minute they said, oh, we just have to let the peak body look at it. I said, who's the peak body? And they said, oh, that would be the Dietitians Association of Australia. I think they're the DA now. And I went, oh, I'm never going to pass that. And I didn't. And it was the peak body that said, no, you're not teaching nutrition the way we teach it. So if it's if you're accredited, you have to teach the university system, basically, whether it's a diploma or whether it's a Cert 4 or a Cert, whatever it is, you have to teach what they're telling you to teach. You can't teach to the beat of the drum of vitalism and anthropology, which is what I do. And I'll assume the same as what you do. You can't.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? I just feel we've been cornered with
We've been
degrees.
corporatized, though. It sounds to me like everything has come back to the money, and it's not about the education or the individual or even the school anymore. It seems to be, it's so sad, because even when I studied aromatherapy and herbal therapy back in the 80s, the aromatherapy colleges, we did these advanced diplomas. We did clinical studies. I worked so hard for those diplomas. And they were very valid and incredibly, I felt, high quality education, taught me how to look at the world with open eyes and to realize that nothing is fixed, that there is an opportunity to get curious, be inquiring, inquisitive. No thing fits every single person. That's why I love herbs and oils, because I got to create blends according to the human in front of me. It just seems so blanket approach. And the last 5 years taught us that as well. And everyone's saying there, that we've got these mental health issues. It's almost like we're driving everyone into a box. People are freaking out, and we're not actually understanding the individualization of what a human can learn and then use their intelligence to support another human being to heal or to be preventative care or whatever. Martin, what are we going to do?
100%, Kim. I think for me, what it comes down to is how much regulation or intervention there is by the government. This is my perspective, and I think that the more government regulation and intervention we see, generally the worse things get. So, Switch on Health, we're not regulated by any government body. And I think that as a result, we can offer far greater level of quality and of care to the people that enroll with us.
It's interesting you say that, because my daughter wanted to be a therapist, actually a sex therapist, to support young people to understand intimacy and connection and all of those important topics.
Yeah.
But then it turned out, as she started studying, she had to get a counselling diploma, which was fine. But then she was told she couldn't do it unless she became I think it was a psychologist. Psychologist.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to do that. And it's the same for me to be a level fully qualified Gottman therapist, a couples therapist. They will not allow me to do the highest level of their training because I'm not a psychologist. Well, to me, it's like, what if I'm a really good therapist? What if I'm just someone who really sees the human in front of me? I don't have to go and get this qualification, but with respect and without ego, I've helped a lot of people in their marriages without being a psychologist. In fact, I'm scared of it. One of the reasons Taylor didn't want to be a psychologist is because she got so bound by what she was allowed to and not allowed to say that it took away the joy of what she wanted to do. And I've got another friend who was a psychologist for 10 years in the medical system. She got out of it, became an advanced NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming, a hypnotherapist, cognitive behavioral therapist. She loves it because it's given her room to breathe, in her words, and allows her to see the individual without boxing it or packaging it. So the other thing I want to throw at you about this, though, Martin, is I follow a man, his studies, called Claire Graves, and he looked at the integration and used this helix kind of patterning around human involvement and development. And his beliefs at this point in time is that around 60 to 65% of all humans are what you'd call a level 4 involvement of, I guess, human involvement. Now, level 4 is very we orientated, which means we believe in institutions, corporatization, certification, people with university degrees, anybody that's got a title behind them. And that played out brilliantly during COVID, where 65% of the world went, we have to follow suit. We're taking away people's ability to think or to get curious. So how do you come up against that? If you don't have a government thing in behind you, do you get questioned on that? Do people go, oh, hang on, it can't be good because it doesn't? You must still have people think that what the government says. 65% of the world is saying that they still believe in these institutional and in these places. So How do you deal with that?
Well, I just listen to the other 35%. And that's enough for me.
How beautiful.
You know,
I love that.
I think that's where Cyndi comes from. I think that's where I come from. And we're not egotistical, all three of us, to think that we can help or heal or be there for everybody. We're just looking for the people who are looking for people like us. So what do you do through your beautiful school and your education in this beautiful institution to give people the confidence? And then what does that look like if someone's listening to this going, this is what I've been looking for?
Yeah, excellent. What was the question? What does it look like?
What do you offer?
What are you offering?
What do we offer? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. So, yeah, what an awesome opportunity to talk about this. Thank you. So, look, we get a lot of people who come to us and they often say, I've always been interested in this and I've never had the opportunity to study. And now, I don't know, the kids are a bit older or they've left home or I'm looking for something for me for a change, So we offer practitioner-level qualifications in nutrition, Western herbal medicine, naturopathy, and homeopathy. And we also offer a range of short courses if somebody's just interested and they don't necessarily want to do a practitioner-level qualification. We think it's really important that everybody has the opportunity to study. Our mission statement is everyone has the right to a happier and healthier life. And that statement is at the core of everything we do. We want to make natural therapies accessible to everybody. We want, wherever you are in Australia, or even in the world, but typically it's people in Australia studying with us, we want you to have the opportunity to study. So you can start at any time. You can go at your own pace. It's still supported. We've got tutors on hand to help you through your studies whenever you do need that help. We're big on flexibility. So you don't have to sort of turn up to classes at a particular time. You can fit your studies in around the rest of your life, not the other way around, Some people will study quickly. Some people will take their time. If they need to take a bit of time out, that's fine. Look, we love what we do, We want to see natural therapies, natural health available to everybody and for everybody to have that opportunity. That's really why we do what we do.
It's so beautiful. I think you're appealing to the people that are so busy these days, or with children or grandchildren or businesses or things like that. There's also something that I want to throw at you. There's the people, and I'm probably talking about myself. I love flexibility and I love the ability that I have that, but that also gives me the space to go, I'll do it next week.
Yes.
So it gets put off. Whereas if I had to go to class or I had to have something done in a certain time, is there those kind of limits?
There is a trade-off. There is a trade-off. I know. And
Martin, I can't tell you how many courses I've enrolled in that I've never finished.
Look, I just have to put something in here. She has done a lot of courses. She is incredible. And when something has to be done, she does it. And she puts herself under pressure so that she does do it. She figures out a way. So I disagree with you, Miss Kim Morrison.
No, but that's why I'm asking, Martin, where's the pressure for people like me? Because we do get it done, but we don't give us too much flexibility.
Yeah. Look, I guess in education, there's two main delivery models, I suppose. You can either have the model that we've got, which is, start anytime, ultimate flexibility, or, okay, we've got intakes throughout the year and you have to turn up to classes and it's structured and this is when your assessments have to be done by and so on. And there's pros and cons to each approach. We went with the flexible approach. For some people, I know they really need that deadline, otherwise it doesn't get done. We do have sort of deadlines on your enrollment. Within that time, you can do whatever you like. So, if you, let's say, you've enrolled in a single subject, which you can do just to try it out. You don't have to commit to the whole diploma. You start off with one subject. We give you 6 months to complete that subject. Now, if you want to do everything in the last 2 weeks, that's fine. But there is something different that we do at Switch On Health that a lot of online colleges do not do. Okay. I don't want to blow my own trumpet here too much, but there are a lot of online courses out there. We know this. You can go online and there's a plethora of people saying, buy this, enroll in this, and whatever. And no disrespect to anybody else that's selling these courses, but there's a lot of people who see online delivery as a bit of a cash cow because they take the money for the enrollment and then they don't have to do anything. Who cares whether the student ever completes or not? Okay, we don't do that. We don't think it's honourable. We don't think it's the right thing to do. So we check in with people. If we can see that we haven't heard from Kim in the last month or so, we send you an email. We're like, hey, Kim, how's it going? How are your studies going? Do you need any help? We're here for you. And
when I hate disappointing people too. So yeah, that would work with me.
Yeah, look, it is a good nudge for people, basically to keep them going along. And look, we are here to help. It's not just something we say. We get people replying and they say, "Oh, actually, I'm stuck on whatever." And yeah,
Martin, will you broaden into herbal therapy, homeopathy? Sorry, you do homeopathy. Homeobotanical therapy, aromatherapy. There's only one college in Australia now teaching aromatherapy as a diploma that I know of.
Yeah. At the moment, we're happy with the delivery, with the offerings that we've got. I think that because we're an online provider, anything with any sort of physical contact, like massage or aromatherapy, for example, technically it could be done online, but yeah, we don't go there at the moment. Yeah, we're happy with the 4 offerings that we've got, and we've got a lot more work to do that we can see to make what we offer even better than it is at the moment.
Could you just repeat them again? It's nutrition, Western
herbal medicine.
Herbal medicine, it is herbal. Yep. Homeopathy and naturopathy. Is that right?
Yeah.
They're 4 pretty amazing programs. How long would it take someone, if they signed up with you tomorrow, to do any one of those courses before they're qualified? What is the time frame you're looking at? Because most naturopaths I speak to, it's like they study even more than some doctors. It's like insane what they know.
Yeah. Okay. So all of our courses are designed to be completed over a 3-year period. Now, you can go faster than that, or you can take longer, up to you. To complete nutrition, herbal medicine, or homeopathy within a 3-year period, we say it's an average of 9 hours a week of study. So about 90 minutes a day. And if you wanted to complete naturopathy within a 3-year period, it's an average of about 15 hours a week of study. So about 2 days of study a week to complete within 3 years. We got some people who are not working and their parents are paying for their course and they can just fly through, study 40 hours a week and, they can be done in 18 months or 2 years, We got other people, obviously, babies, sickness, life happens, need to take time out. We understand there's that flexibility there.
Amazing. And I also think what's so powerful here is, I don't know about you both, but when I look at the amount of time people spend at university and how many holidays they get, I'm sure they could condense these degrees into 2 years, not 4 or 5. There's so many holidays, and same with school. Yeah. When Cyndi told me about the homeschooling program, that they'd get the schooling done in the morning while they were traveling around Australia in a bus, it was all done, and then the rest of the time was playtime. I'm like, what are we doing at school?
Yeah.
My son completed all the gaps between grade 3 and grade 6, and then grade 6 to 9 in 3 years. So he had gaps in his knowledge. We had to fill all that in first, and then he finished the next 3 years off. So, so basically he did 6 years in 3. And I just it's just a waste of. There's a lot of wasted time. When you sit down and I have something called a default diary, and it's like I tell my students that you got to pretend you are at university, and then on Mondays between 9 and 12 you're in lectures, and Thursdays between 9 and 12 you're in lectures. You can't go for coffee, you can't go with your friends, you cannot make a date or anything like that. That's university time. So I tell them a default diary, and I don't know how many of them do it, but I tell them every time, like I have a webinar every month, and I just say, I hope you're sticking to your default diaries. I'm a Attila the Hun. But yeah, I just say, well, you just got to pretend that that's what it is. But I watch my daughter. She's been at university nearly 10 years. I watch her study. We could be traveling somewhere. She'll open her computer. We'll have 15, 20 minutes waiting for a plane, and she'll be working for 15, 20 minutes. Me, I like to sit for 3 hours and really concentrate on what I'm doing. Not 20 minutes. What am I going to learn in 20 minutes? But that's how she's in, 20-year-olds, and that's how they do things. Whereas me, the 60-year-olds like me, we went to uni. We were at uni from 9 till 5 doing, lectures. There was nothing online then, nothing. So I like long spaces of time to study or create something. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Martin, our time is up, but I am sure we could talk forever. I'm very excited that you're coming to the 2025 summit.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and I think there's some people around you that are coming as well. So it's very exciting. I just think in this day and age that if we're on that same thought pattern, that it's nice to stick together and support each other and help each other and be there for each other. I love it. I love that you're going to be there, which is not that far away at the moment. So
is that to support people there as if they've got questions, they can come to this event then and they can talk to you one-on-one? And is that going to be available, Martin?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there. I'll be available for hugs.
Next minute, the whole room's signing up. We're all becoming naturopaths. I can't wait. I just looked at that, went 3 years. I could be
visit our school.
Homeopathy. Yeah.
I've done that. I want to do my naturopathy. I'm thinking,
she's gone.
3 years I could do it. Come on, bring it on. Oh.
Yeah, visit our stall. You get a free hug from me if you want one.
Oh, yay!
What an opportunity.
Martin, if there was a final message though around the potential for learning, your approach to learning. Like I said to you before, I thought university or TAFE or any of these was about expanding our ability to get curious or question. What would be your final message to our beautiful Up for a Chat listener?
Wow. Well, look, we are really focused on helping you, empowering you to be the best practitioner that you possibly can be. Uni is great. I guess that unis, they're going to have a kind of an academic slant to what they do. Our focus really is on empowering you to be not just competent, but to actually feel confident as a practitioner. Like that's our goal. You may not want to go into practice. This is an amazing industry. There's so many different opportunities and avenues you can go down. I'm sure Cyndi is going to agree with me. There's multiple different opportunities out there. Once you get that bit of paper, the doors do kind of open up for you. But yeah, that's our focus really. We want you to go out there, be awesome, change people's lives and help them. I think, sorry, I'm ranting now, but bear with me. It's my belief that every single person on this planet has at least one health condition that they would like help with. Every single person has got something they would like to improve about their health. And we're not getting the answers and the help that we need from modern medicine. People are crying out for help, and we're there to help people and fill that gap. So, your potential market is as big as there are people on the planet. And yeah, look, people do need help. We need more natural health out there. I'm sure we all agree on that. So our mission at Switch On Health is, to produce graduates that can go out there and change the world.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear. So they can find you at switchonhealth.com.au. What about your socials?
Yep, we are on Facebook and Insta. I delegate that stuff. I'm not very good, but we do have a Facebook page. But yeah, visit our website, switchonhealth.com.au.
Then you can go down the bottom and you can click on the Instagram and you can click on the Facebook and
I'm sure you can do that.
You can.
I think you've obviously checked it out more than I have. Yeah, look, go to our website, fill out a form, or send us an email. Ask us for more information. We do also have a lot of free content on our learning platform. So, look, if you are interested and you want to check us out, even if you don't particularly want to study, get in touch, ask for access to our learning platform. You can sign in there. There's a lot of content you can look at for free, whatever you do. So yeah, take advantage of that.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for that incredible history lesson. I had no idea, but I know I've been frustrated by it. So, but you really clarified.
I've watched her cry.
Yeah.
I've watched her swear and curse and been very frustrated, because what Cyndi teaches, in my humble opinion, is very much in line with what you're about. And when she talks anthropology and the real human and what it means and how we've evolved, it's also interesting from a learning perspective because it makes sense. It's just so makes sense. And I think common sense is missing so much in medicine. And I just want to thank you both, actually, for being so brave and also being so stoical by getting out there and making sure this is available. So on behalf of both of us, Martin, thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's my absolute pleasure to be able to talk about this. And Cyndi, I'm a big fan of yours. So keep going, keep doing what you're doing. And thank you.
Thank you. And we'll see everybody in the next couple of weeks. Bye for now.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.